Hello there, my stamping friends. My name is Tammy Nelson with Stamp and Scrap with Tammy, bringing you a video tutorial today. If you are watching this on YouTube, hello and welcome to you. You may be watching this from a link over on Facebook. So today's video is for our Wednesday weekly Facebook Live. It is recorded today because I am celebrating Christmas with my family. But I chose a card today that is absolutely stunning. It is kind of a wintry theme. It is using products that are going to be available through our annual catalog. So at least until probably about May or, of course, towards the end there while supplies last. So I chose something that is very timeless to share with you today. Again, if you're watching over from the Facebook link, thank you so much for watching week after week. If you're watching here for the first time, welcome. I hope that you'll subscribe to my page, like the video, give me a comment, and come back every week. I share on Facebook weekly with a live at 11 a.m. Central. And then I do always share it over to YouTube. So if you're not on Facebook, no problem. You can catch me over on YouTube anytime. All right, everybody. That's all I have to say here. I just wanted to say hello. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Oh my goodness, we're already going to be heading into 2022. Now, of course, if you're watching a replay, it may already be 2022. Oh, that's a mouthful. But anyways, let's get down to the project. I've got some other things to share as we go. Again, my name is Tammy Nelson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So if you do not yet have a demonstrator that you work with, I would love to work with you. In the first comment on the YouTube comments is a link to join the VIP email list. That is where I send out all the information, all the happenings, anything that I have going on. Currently, we do have January 2022 mini catalog paper and ribbon shares. We've got monthly classes, order specials, all kinds of things. And that gets emailed out at least every Tuesday. I do a tutorial Tuesday, free tutorial that you can print off. And that is actually where I received this card idea from, was from one of those tutorials that I send out. I am fortunate enough to share tutorials with other Stampin' Up! Demonstrators. We are all wonderful about sharing our ideas and tips and tricks with all of you. So this is not an original idea to me. I will share with you in the comments as well who the originator of this is. I forgot to write that down before I started today. All right, and so again, Tammy Nelson, if you do not have a demonstrator, I would love it if you love any of these products and want to shop with me. I do have an ordering link there as well. All right, and here, if you opt into that VIP list, I'm going to send you this little cheat sheet of a measuring template. If you watch my videos, you'll find that I end up having to use this quite a bit when I start working with the smaller measuring increments, such as the 1/8, the 3/16. I question myself, so I have a little cheat sheet that I will pass along to all of you when you join the VIP list. So let's get down to what we are working on today. Isn't this card just lovely? And so typically usually when I work with a set of products, I like to just go with the stamp set and the die cuts. That's it. I don't like to bring in a lot of other things typically. But today I decided to kind of mix things up again a little bit. So I am using, I'll show you the products that I'm using before we get started here, and then we'll go through how I made this. There's a couple different ways you can do this. So this I did not use, but I will share with you kind of where my thought process went when I started working with this card. So first off, I have got the beautiful tree dies. That is pictured right here. I love the little cardinals. It does cut out 2 at a time for those cardinals. So if you're making cards in bulk, you'll find that very handy. And then for the label, for the sentiment here, I pulled in my harvest dies. This is going to be a carryover product. So if you had our fall mini catalog, these were in there in the Nature's Harvest bundle. And I love this little die. It worked perfect for that. Now, I could have possibly used this if I decided to go with one of the sentiments from that stamp set. But I did really want to make this a sympathy card. And it didn't have exactly the size I was looking for. So I decided to bring in the Inspiring Thought stamp set. And that had the perfect sympathy sentiment right there. And the reason I had all these out on my desk at the same time was because I was creating a class in December, and I paired these 2 cards together. So in a way, I did kind of mix and match a little bit. I did pull it all together. But that is where this came from for my card that we're making today. And I did also pull in for the background for the snow. There's other ways you can do this, but I like to stamp it and use some heat embossing, and so I pulled in my quiet meadow where there was just that little, spritz of inking there. And so that is what I used to create my card today. A little more product than what I maybe typically use, because I am definitely a simple stamper. So if you are just tuning in for the first time, maybe second or third time, you're going to see a theme as you watch my videos and follow along my projects. I typically go towards simple, successful stamping. Now, when I do pull in a little craziness, I typically go for a shaker card. But you'll find those are also very similar. But also here, look at this. So very simple supplies. Look at that. And this is just for my inside, a basic white for the inside. Very, very simple today. I've got basic black, crumb cake. I've got some gingham ribbon. And of course, I did need some real red for the cardinals. And so that is it for supplies, and then some basic red rhinestones. So not a lot of supplies included to create this beautiful card. All right, so my basic black, let's go over some measurements here. Feel free to write these down as we go. We got 5.5 by 8.5. You're going to score that at 4 1/4 if you like to pre-score your cards. And I'm just going to fold that in half to get started, and then I can set it aside. So basic black. And then let's use our crumb cake here. Let's go ahead and do our background stamping and get that out of the way. I will bring in a scratch piece of paper, not exactly a coordinating color. I should have maybe thought of that, since Stampin' Up! Is definitely known for coordinating colors. That is definitely what I like. As you see, when I mixed and matched different die cuts and stamp sets, their product coordination is second to none. That is for sure. So I've got my Versamark, and we're going to use white embossing powder to get my background today. So my Versamark, I'm just going to do a very light stamping so I don't get any shadows around the edges. I want to try to steer clear of that. And I'm just very randomly going to place this all over the front of the card. I did find when I made my sample card that if I didn't get it exactly where I wanted, or if I wanted a little more, I should say, after I had it heat embossed, it worked just fine to go back and add in a little bit more and then heat it a second time. Okay, I think I've got that covered pretty well. And again, we can always go back and see if we want to add some more later. Let's move that aside. Let's make a little mess here. And no, we won't make a mess. I just use a coffee filter here. So nothing too formal when I'm heat embossing. I like to keep it nice and simple. And all I'm going to do is sprinkle that over the top. And so you can see how the powder is taking to that Versamark. So this might be new to you. If you are a longtime avid crafter, now of course you probably do this all the time. But let's remember, not everybody has. Maybe you're new to this. Maybe you haven't even started. Now would be a great time to start. And so that is all there is. I'm making my own little bit of snow. And I will set my powder aside. I can always just add that back into my container after we are through. I recommend doing that. That is for sure. And I'm going to see if my heat tool will reach over here. I think it will, kind of, almost. And so I've got my Stampin' Up! Heat Emboss tool here. Keep your fingers out of the way. Oh, this isn't starting so well. Here we go. And so I'm just going to go along. It does take a minute to heat up the first time you use it. So if I was doing a bunch of these, I probably would get a few ready at a time and then just go into heating them. Now videos, it doesn't necessarily show this the best, but when you do this in person, there we go. It's just brightening up a little bit. It's getting a little bit shiny. Now you can go from the top. This is just my preferred, but a lot of people do like to go from the back, and that also works just fine. And so once it starts heating up, I just run it right along, and it doesn't take long for the rest of it to take to the Versamark. So the heat is basically just setting the powder. It is one of my favorite things to do. All right, so as I'm waiting for this, I'll talk a little bit about myself. So again, Tammy Nelson, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And I have been a demonstrator. I was thinking about this before I started the video. It's going to be 6 years in January. Can you believe that? So those that have been watching along, I didn't start videos, of course, right away. I mainly did just in-person classes. Now I do a little mixture of both, and I am absolutely loving it. But anyways, so back to where I'm going with this. So I've been a demonstrator for 6 years. Now, crafting, well, probably for about 25, but making cards, probably about 8 or 9 of those years. So I had been making cards, dabbling a little bit in that for a couple years before I became a demonstrator. It was about a year and a half before, once I was a demonstrator, before I ever heat embossed. Like, that is just crazy to me. I would see the powders, I would see the tools, and I had no idea how to do it. And I was kind of embarrassed to ask. So now, you know what, when I start with new stampers, it's one of the first things I like to share with you because it just opens up a whole new world of things that you can do. So I think we've got a great looking background. And now let's just do our stamping. So this is from the Nature's Harvest dies. So I'm just using the little label there. So you can get a lot of mileage out of this. That is something I look for when I pick out the die cuts that I want to get is, you know, of course I love these other elements, but what else can I do with them? There's some sentiment pieces. That is one of my favorite things about die cut sets when they have, you know, the trees and they got the sprigs and the flowers and stuff, but they also have a label I can use with other cards that I'm going to make. So now I'm just using a basic Memento Black. Do you see I have 2 of these here? I have 2 because if I mess one up, I've got a second one. I'm always going to give myself a second chance. And really 4, because I could flip it around, but with the stitching, I maybe wouldn't want to do that. All right, so do you see that? Just a nice tap, tap. I'm not digging into it too much. I want to just get a nice evenly inked stamped image. All right, that is a mouthful. All right, so we will just go a nice straight up, straight down, very gentle to the touch, but let's let that ink soak in just a bit. And let's pull that up. Looks like I did pretty well, but as long as I have it here, because now I'll be all set for another card. Unfortunately, this is one of those cards that you don't want to have to send, but it's nice when you have them ready to go, especially now in the winter. Unfortunately, I do need to send a few of these out this week. Okay, and I'm going to move that to the side. Now, what is next? I have got my Gingham Ribbon. Beautiful, beautiful black and white ribbon. I've got 2 different sizes, if you notice there. So let me just share with you what I'm going to do now. Of course, I'm going to share with you. It's a video. You're going to see it to the end. So I've got a longer piece here. I don't know. I suppose it is cut at about 5.5 inches or so. I'm just going to put it along the side there. No adhesive on the front. Let's flip that over. We're leaving it loose on the front side. And I'm just going to take some Scotch tape to adhere it now in the back. Couple of reasons I'm doing it this way. I wanted to make sure, because now I can move it around if I decide after I put my tree down that it's not quite the right place for me. And now I'm going to put my tree down here. Couple different options that we can do with the tree. I already cut this out. It cut out very nice. I did also try one on an adhesive sheet. So I just put my basic black paper over the top of one of our adhesive sheets and cut it out. Something I will say, if you are going to do that, is you might want to make your cards up right away. You wouldn't want to like tuck these in an envelope to store to make later, because it does pull away a little bit from the piece of paper when you pull it out of the die cut. But I did like that idea. So look at how easy this is. You can make any of your die cuts into a sticker when you use the double-sided adhesive sheet. So that's on basic black. Now all I have to do is tuck it right underneath my tree. Perfect placement. And you know what I think I'm going to end up doing? I'm going to want my ribbon just a little bit lower. So let's see if I have a take-a-pick tool. I do. My take-a-pick tool, I'm going to just tuck my needle end underneath there and pull that up a little bit. So really, I could have done this step after. I got a little ahead of myself, but I also liked doing it before. You know, every time I probably do it just a little different. So now I do already have my tape on there. So let's go just a little bit lower. That looks perfect. And let's tuck that back in there. Okay. So next, now what is this little piece here for? Now this is just a little bit smaller. I suppose it's about 3 inches long. Now what I can do here is first, let's make this even. It was just a little bit off. So you see, that's what's kind of nice about the tape. This Scotch tape is the only thing that I do use for adhesive that is not my Stampin' Up! Adhesive. I love all of our adhesives, but when I do this little ribbon deal, that's my preferred method. All right, so next what I'm gonna do is a couple of reasons. So now we could tuck that tree behind there, but look at that. I can tuck my gingham ribbon right underneath there, and this is going to be a nice, simple, successful bow for you. If you are not a bow tire, if you are not a bow lover, here you go. You just tuck it underneath there. So you could even make that piece a little bit longer if it's hard for you to tuck that under. And all you're gonna do is tie a knot. Take a paper snips and snip off the edges so it's a little bit more petite. And you have got just the perfectly placed ribbon and bow. It's just the most simple way to make a bow. Now let's go ahead and adhere this before we're finished up our last finishing touches. I do need to get my stamp and seal. So just a couple more steps. I did just start this one. So as you see, it takes a little bit when you just started. You might have to try a couple times and then you are smooth sailing, ready to go. All right, my stamp and seal is in place. And now our real red is just going to add such a nice touch to this card. I do need to get some Stampin' Dimensionals. I think I still have them sitting on my other desk. Let me get them. All right, sorry about that. So this is a recorded video, but you're going to get a few little live action things happening here because I probably won't go back and edit all of that out. But, you know, that's kind of what happens in our weekly lives. Occasionally I got to go to a different place in the room and get supplies that I forgot to bring over. I have about 5 different surfaces that I work on. I don't know if you're like me, and you know, as one gets kind of cluttered, you just move to the next one. Maybe that should be my New Year's resolution, is to not do that so much. All right, again, this is a recorded video. It is meant for our weekly Facebook Live that would be happening. This is going to be shared on December 29th. I go live every single Wednesday over on Facebook, the Stampin' Scrap with Tammy Facebook page. And then I do share to YouTube later for those that are not on Facebook. But isn't this a gorgeous card that we're sharing today? And let's just do this. I'm going to end up making up the rest of these. So I've got some cardinals cut out. Again, I talked about it at the beginning. I love this because it does cut out 2. They're both going different directions. But something I can do, just cut out a bunch, take your glue dots, and then put them in place. And this also helps. See, I wanted to show you this little tip that I do because I did this a couple times, but I didn't adhere them like this beforehand because I wanted to show you. So what happened was this little cup here that I had them in, I think I tipped this over about 4 times onto the floor, and then I had to pick them all up. So something nice when you're going to be making multiples of a card. If you have little tiny pieces like this that you're going to adhere with a glue dot, just put them right on there. Then it is easier not only to adhere them when you're ready to, but you won't drop them, you won't lose them. They're all secured right here. Okay, so you see that? Isn't that beautiful? All right, so now all I have to do, I'm going to take my Take a Pick tool, go underneath there, and then I can decide on the tree where I want to place that. Now, beautiful enough as that is, we do have to add some basic red rhinestones. It just really adds that finishing touch. And we have one more thing we need to do. So sometimes when I have an animal or a tree or something like that, I like to give it a ground because right now it's just kind of floating out there in the air. And so I'm going to just take a crumb cake. I've got my dark crumb cake marker, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of ground. You could take your light. Any neutral color will work. There we go. Our tree has a ground now. And let's get our basic red rhinestones. Christmas is just ending here. So I am about out of basic red rhinestones. I need to order some more. I went a little crazy using them the last couple of weeks. So this is what I have left of my red rhinestones. I'm going to put 5 of them on, 3 clustered up on the top, 2 over here on the bottom. And that is going to finish off the card for today. Isn't this just lovely? All right, so I'm going to call that kind of a sister card to this lovely card here as well. It used a lot of the same supplies. If you'd like to see this video, I'll link it in the comments on the YouTube. But this was last week's video. where I created another wintry themed greeting card. Also kind of a thinking of you sympathy card, you know, something like that, that if you need those those kinds of cards right now. Unfortunately, it's a card that we often need, and so it's nice to have some on hand ready to send. You know what? Let's go ahead and finish this off. One last really quick thing. This is something that I also should put in my New Year's resolution, is to get better at finishing off the insides of my cards right away on the video so that I don't have to go back. This is a nice inside sentiment from the Inspiring Thoughts stamp set. And I will go ahead and adhere that. Let it dry just a touch. When you are using Stampin' Seal, for something like the inside here, you hardly need any adhesive. It doesn't take too much. There, isn't that lovely? So we have a nice finished card here. And let's bring those into view. Let's talk just a real short amount here yet about the email opt-in. So if you tuned in kind of in the middle, or maybe you skipped around a little bit and now you're finishing it off, if you join my VIP list, I do send you this little cheat sheet of a ruler template if you struggle like me with the smaller measurements, or you just second guess yourself like me. If I really sat and thought about it, I'd figure it out. However, I like to have this cheat sheet on my desk so that when I need to think about what is halfway between 3/4 and an inch at 7/8, I have it handy. I don't have to second guess myself. So this is a free PDF tutorial that gets emailed to you after you opt into the VIP Stampin' Scrap Tammy email list. And again, if you missed it, I am Tammy Nelson with Stampin' Scrap with Tammy. Thank you so much today for watching my YouTube video creating this lovely card. I hope you'll join us again sometime soon, or watch maybe one of my past videos and enjoy some creative projects today. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.